Alright, you guys, welcome back to Rocking Out with Autism. So today I'm gonna talk about one of the actual symptoms that some autistics can possibly have, and it's basically pain tolerance. So this one was like a really interesting one for me because growing up, I would sometimes come outside and and come back into the house and basically have my leg be like all cut up and I'd be bleeding or something like that and have like these bruises on my arms and my legs, and my mom would just like panic and freak the heck out. She always thought like it was like some bully or somebody like that was picking on me, and obviously I must have got like hurt or something like that, right? And I couldn't tell my mom at all like what why like how my leg started bleeding or what happened, because I didn't feel nothing. I mean, I literally had no idea how how I came in the house with my leg just like dripping blood everywhere, and not knowing at all like how it happened. But it got to the point where basically, like I said, my parents would start like becoming like very complacent and just you know not really panicking whenever I was in pain. You know, and I guess because they could never really put it together, like why I wouldn't come up to them if something was bothering me, basically. So I'll never forget like this one. I remember I was basically with my friends. My parents were both in the navies. They were stationed in Roosevelt Roads in Puerto Rico, and there was this basically this like path that would lead you down to the beach. And I was out there with my friends, Carlos, and I think Ray was the one that was with us. And there was, like I said, a beach, and I think it was called like Black Pebble Beach because there was like these little like rocks everywhere by the coastline. And we were just bored. Like we were like just like typical like teenagers that were bored and trying to figure out what the hell we wanted to do. So we basically like started picking up the stones and we're throwing them into the water, trying to skip the stones across the water. But I ended up going to like one side of the beach, and my friends were on the other. And I remember like they were throwing rocks, and they were literally throwing it in my direction. And like I think I started like trying like to scream at them like, hey, like you're about to hit me with rocks, you guys. And like, the rocks are getting closer and closer to me. Well, sure enough, here comes this rock, and it's like directly at my head, and I couldn't get out of the way. Like there's no way I'm gonna be able to dodge this rock now. So the thing hits me in the head, bounces off onto the ground, and like I said, didn't think anything happening. Like whatever. This rock just hit me in the head, but whatever. All of a sudden I started like feeling something extremely like warm. It was like now my head like became like, I don't know, like 100 degrees or something like that, and blood just gushing all over the place. It now looks like a freaking like crime scene here, like something like you would see like on like like CSI or something like that. There's blood gushing everywhere, and my friends are still throwing rocks at me, and I'm like screaming at them like, what the hell, like stop throwing rocks, and finally my friends like come, and and they're freaking out because I'm bleeding everywhere, you know but none of us wanted to go to my parents. We did not want to go at all to like tell my parents that, hey, my head's bleeding. So it's still gushing out everywhere. It's lying like all the pebbles, all the rocks, all the path back up, and our stupid selves are still walking around like base housing, while I'm like gushing blood everywhere, from like the road and everything. I mean, it seriously looks like like a crime scene or something like that. And anyway, so we decided to go to one of our other friends' house because her mom supposedly is a nurse. And I guess we weren't ever like paying attention to the fact that maybe like I was probably bleeding on her driveway, you know. But my friend's mom basically said, there's nothing she can do for me, and it's literally like you literally probably have like a hole or a gash or something like that. You're gonna have to get stitches. So reluctantly, we finally go to my parents, and they had to take me to the doctor, and they literally stapled my head together. Basically, they put staples in my head. So I mean, I don't know. I guess for like a while I look like freaking Frankenstein or something. But it gets funny because like my friends are like panicking, and like, and I was just like like nonchalant about it, and like I didn't care that like now like my head is like gushing blood, like freaking like old faithful geyser or something like that, you know but I remember finally when it started to heal, my parents had to take, or actually my mom was like working, my dad took me to the hospital to remove the staples. And oh my gosh, like they couldn't get him out. I think like 4 or 5 like nurses or doctors came in there trying to pull him, and I'd never seen my dad get pissed. I'd never seen my dad get mad at all. Like he's just not that type of person. But he was getting like extremely, extremely mad because while they were taking like the little tweezers or whatever they were using to try to get the staples out, they were like literally like pulling clumps of my hair out. You know, like literally like chunks of my hair. And my dad was like, like I said, like panicking, like freaking out, like, does it hurt? He's like coming up to me, does it hurt? They're pulling your hair. Does it hurt? And I'm like, no, I don't feel anything. I have a high tolerance for pain. I didn't feel them pulling literally like clumps of my hair. I didn't feel it. But my dad knows me. My dad knows my high pain tolerance, right? So he was getting really, really, like I said, like really mad. I'd never seen my dad get mad. And like I said, there was like doctor, nurse, med techs, whatever, kept coming, and nobody can get these staples out of my head. And finally, like, my dad makes a suggestion. He's like, why don't you cut them in half and then pull each ends of the staples out? So one of the doctors or something like that says, that's not the way we do it. That's not the way it's supposed to happen. We're supposed to be able to pull them out. Now that again makes my dad like really mad. Like, he's like trying to tell you to come with a suggestion. So now I think like the 6 freaking doctors or like nurse or something that comes in and decides to do that. Decides to cut them in half and pulls them out. But that's just like I said. That's just like one example, you guys, of like how I have this tolerance of pain and don't feel anything. Even though literally they were pulling clumps of my hair out, I didn't feel it. But my dad probably knew that he should be in pain. He's probably not saying anything. So here's again, like I said, like how my family became complacent. So again, I'm still in Puerto Rico. We're still stationed there, and this time I joined the cross country team. I always loved to run. It was one like the easiest things for me. I literally hated sports growing up. I absolutely could not stand sports. I could not stand PE. It was like my least favorite class in school. Couldn't stand it. Like I didn't want to like even like dress out or anything like that or participate. I hated it. If I could, I would literally come up to the coach and say, can I just run the track? But I joined the cross country team, and we had like a very terrible coach. He was, I think, like our assistant principal or something like that. And then I guess he like stopped being a principal or whatever, and he was gonna be like become like a counselor or something. But he had never coached a team before, and it definitely showed, you guys, because Roosevelt Roads was a big, spread out Navy base in Puerto Rico. I mean, it literally had a base theater. It had a stables. So there actually were people that owned horses and kept them on base. And that's basically what he would do. So he would pick us up in his truck and drop us off at the stables, like about like literally like 5 or 6 miles away from base housing, and he would tell us to run home. And we didn't stretch, we didn't do any like pre-exercises, whatever like that. We didn't work up to that, that amount of like running. So, I was just like I said, like just running full force, trying to do 2 or 3 miles, and never had to run that far in my life. So, at first I was okay, but after a while, like, I felt an intense amount of pain in my lower legs, like around my shins, tense pain. It didn't like come out right at first. It was mostly like hurting like right when I started running. Like once I started like running for like a certain amount of time, then the pain became like super immense. And see, my parents were so used to me quitting sports. So when I first came up to them and told them that my legs were hurting, I think automatically they just thought he just wants to quit a sport again. He just wants to quit. Because it's too hard or whatever. And it was frustrating, like I'm coming to them and I'm in pain and my parents are not listening to me. They just think I want to quit, and basically I think my parents think their reaction or something like that was like, it's gonna be hard, running, keep up with it, this is what you want to do, you want to be on the cross country team, keep up with it, right? So I went to like I think I went to like one of like one of our like our meets, and I think it was one where we had to like stay in a city out in Puerto Rico. I think it was like in Arecibo or something like that, and I think we like stayed in like Fort Buchanan. And that particular meet we had to, I think, run like 2 or 2.5 miles, something like that. In the very beginning of the meet, I was the very first one. I'm not kidding. I was in first place. I was running, very well, and nothing was happening, and I was doing very good. But then all of a sudden, that pain that came back. Like I said, like, in the very beginning of like my run, I didn't feel nothing. But as I got more and more into running, I was getting to like my top speed basically, that pain became so immense, you guys, so strong. And I ended up basically coming to like a low jog. I had to like slow down because the pain was so immense. And now people are of course passing me and everything like that. And I think I finished like, I don't know, like third to last place, but I was like legit like in first in the beginning. And I was mad. And I remember going to my parents again saying, my legs are really hurting me. Like, they legit are hurting me. I says they don't normally hurt right in the beginning, but when I start getting to like my top speed, they hurt. So finally my parents took me to the doctor. You guys, finally took me to the doctor. And they're doing x-rays, of course, of my legs. And they found, they said something's abnormal, we definitely see something. But unfortunately, we don't really have the equipment to really see what's 100% going on. And I was actually just like feeling mostly my pain in my right leg, but sometimes in my left. So they did both. And they said, yeah, there's something in your left leg as well. So I'm just going to tell you guys, like, anytime you go to any type of like military hospital or anything, it really amazes me that they never have what you need. That they always have to give you a referral to send you off base. You would think with it being like a government facility, a government hospital, that you would have literally everything that you need, especially being in like a foreign country. Even though Puerto Rico is owned by the United States, they speak Spanish. In my opinion, that's a foreign country. I hate to say it. You know, they haven't completely joined us. They haven't said they want to be a part of our statehood or whatever. So to me, that's a different country. You know, so I would again think a military base. You would have everything you need there. You know. But luckily, my mom spoke Spanish, so they had to send us off base. Is what I'm trying to tell you guys. They had to send us off base because they wanted me to go through a bone scan, and they wanted to basically to really see what is going on in my legs. So I remember like they gave me like a shot, and I guess it had like radioactive dye or something like that in there, so they could basically see when they do in the bone scan what's going on in my legs. And they came back with the results. I had fractured both of my tibias. Just to let you guys know what a tibia is, that's your shin bone. So both of my tibias were fractured, and I was running full force on basically fractured legs. Yeah, like I guess like pretending like I'm like Lieutenant Dan or something. Like from Forrest Gump, I'm like running on fractured legs. I know he didn't have any legs, but like I'm running on legs that are fractured, cracked, basically. Cracked legs, cracked bones, whatever you want to say. And I remember going back to the doctors because, they had to give me like pain medicine or something like that, or they were wanting to put me in a splint. They wanted me to be like in a wheelchair, which no, there's no way in heck I want to do that. I don't want somebody to have to help me, getting out of a bathroom and all that. No, thank you. But I remember the doctors thought, it was super freaking crazy, that I have stress fractures and I'm running. They're like, we have grown men that come in with stress fractures, and they're in tears and crying and bawling out, and yet you are running cross country and running, miles and miles on your legs. Crazy. But again, autism was never picked up. Nobody thought about that being something that, could be the reason why I had this high tolerance for pain. I had a rock come into my head and I'm running around, letting it bleed everywhere. I have stress fractures and I'm running there. When I was younger, like I said, cutting my leg open and having bruises or whatever, falling off of like, falling off my bike or whatever and scraping myself, getting caught on my like bike chain and the chain like ripping my skin. Never felt like it. Of course, when I was like really, really young, like maybe like 2 or 3 years old or something like that, and I fell down something like that, I'd probably like, I remember like crying and bawling out. But as I got older, it just nothing, There was just no expression or anything like that. And, just didn't think it was a big deal. But like I said, it was interesting that my parents became so complacent with that and thought, heck, he has this high tolerance for pain. Obviously he's got to be okay. So I'm gonna tell you guys that that are parents with autistic, autistic children, or if you're an autistic adult yourself, or maybe you're around somebody and they come and tell you, they honestly come and tell you, and not afraid to come and tell you that they are in pain. Believe them. Don't become complacent and just think, hey, they're fine. No. Also, like, try to like help them. Try to see, because we're probably not gonna come right directly and tell you that we are feeling pain. That there's something going on. So that's just one of the different symptoms that people may have with autism, you guys. All right, I hope you got something from this. Thank you for tuning in, and keep rocking on, you guys. Bye bye.